Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we dive deep into all kinds of fascinating topics. And today is no exception. This one is particularly interesting. It came from one of our listeners, and it's all about the potential connection between, I guess, probiotics and testicle size, sperm count, and testosterone levels.
It certainly caught my eye when I saw it. I mean, the idea that something as simple as a probiotic could influence such fundamental aspects of male reproductive health, it's pretty fascinating, to say the least.
Absolutely. So let's break it down. Where does this all begin?
Well, a lot of the buzz around this topic stems from research done on mice. There were some studies that showed introducing a specific strain of bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri. You might also see it shortened to L. reuteri. And they found it actually led to get this, a 15% increase in testicle size in these mice.
Wow, 15%.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
I mean, for mice at least.
Yeah.
But do we know if those findings apply to humans as well?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, the research on humans is still pretty limited at this point. But there are some promising links between L. reuteri and testosterone production. Specifically, it looks like this bacteria might be important for keeping something called Leydig cells healthy. These cells live in the testes, and they're actually the main producers of testosterone in males.
So we have these intriguing results in mice and a possible mechanism in humans. But if this bacteria is, so beneficial, why aren't we all seeing these remarkable effects?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. You see, our gut microbiome, that's the trillions of bacteria living in our digestive system, it's changed a lot over the last few decades. Like back in the 60s, something like 40% of the population had L. reuteri in their gut, but today that number is way lower, closer to like 10 or 15%. And it's not just L. reuteri, it's a lot of beneficial bacteria. It seems our modern diets, overuse of antibiotics, and even our, super clean lifestyles are making it hard for these bacteria to thrive.
That's pretty concerning. So is it possible that this depletion of good bacteria like L. reuteri is actually contributing to, more than just reproductive health problems? Are we talking bigger picture health issues here?
It's definitely a possibility. Scientists are finding more and more connections between an imbalanced gut microbiome and all sorts of health problems like inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, obesity, even mental health conditions. So yeah, the decline in L. reuteri and other beneficial bacteria could be playing a much bigger role than we initially thought. And that brings us back to the benefits of potentially reintroducing it. So how do we go about doing that?
Well, one solution that keeps popping up online is kefir. It's a fermented milk drink, kind of like yogurt, that's often said to be full of probiotics. But is kefir really a good source of L. reuteri? And are all kefirs created equal?
Well, kefir can be a decent source, yeah. It's tangy, kind of like thin yogurt, and it often does contain L. reuteri. So, in theory, it could help replenish this specific bacteria. The problem is that not all kefirs are made the same way. A lot of the ones you find at the store are loaded with sugar, and that kind of defeats the purpose, health-wise. So if you're going the kefir route, definitely go for unsweetened varieties, and always check the label to make sure it actually lists L. reuteri as one of the ingredients.
Okay, so let's say our listener finds a good kefir, unsweetened, with L. reuteri on the label. What's the dosage? How much do they need to drink? And how long would it take to see, those impressive results we saw in the mice?
It's important to remember that what we saw in mice doesn't necessarily translate directly to humans. Our bodies are more complex. Plus, rebuilding a healthy gut microbiome takes time. It's not an overnight fix. As for kefir, a good starting point is about a cup a day, and you really need to be patient. We're talking at least 3 months of consistent consumption before you might start seeing any noticeable changes.
3 months, huh? That's quite a commitment to kefir. What about people who, for whatever reason, just can't stand kefir? Are there other ways to boost those L. reuteri levels or their testosterone?
There are definitely some alternative approaches out there, but they might not be as simple as just adding a drink to your diet. Some experts suggest using certain combinations of vitamins and herbs that could potentially support testosterone production and sperm health. But it's a little more complex, and we need to be careful here.
Caution is definitely key, especially when you're dealing with supplements and alternative health practices. It sounds like we need to take a closer look at these alternative options and weigh the potential risks and rewards. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick break and give our listeners a moment to absorb all this information about L. reuteri and the gut microbiome.
Yeah. When it comes to vitamins, herbs, and supplements that claim to boost testosterone or, improve male reproductive health, It's really a minefield out there. There's just so much information and misinformation flying around. It can be tough to figure out what's actually backed by science and what's just hype.
It definitely feels like a world of um, bold claims, that's for sure. So what should our listeners be thinking about when they're trying to navigate all of this?
The most important thing, the very first step, is to talk to a doctor before you start taking any supplements. They can check your overall health, see if there are any potential risks or interactions, and just give you some personalized advice. Supplements aren't regulated as strictly as medications, so the quality, the dosage, even the safety can be all over the place.
That's a really good point. Supplements can interact with medications you're already taking. They could make existing conditions worse or even have, unexpected side effects. So having a doctor involved is crucial. But, we've been focusing a lot on L-reitery and its potential benefits for, male reproductive health specifically. But this is just one type of bacteria, right? It's part of this much bigger system, the gut microbiome. So can we talk a bit more about the overall importance of gut health?
Absolutely. We're learning more and more about just how essential the gut microbiome is for overall health. It's not just about digestion. Research is showing strong links between gut health and the immune system, mental health, metabolism, even heart health. When your gut microbiome is out of whack, when you have too many bad bacteria and not enough of the good ones, that's been linked to a whole range of chronic diseases.
So it sounds like having a healthy gut microbiome is about way more than, maybe increasing testicle size or testosterone levels. It's really a foundation for overall health and preventing disease.
Exactly. While we're still figuring out all the specifics about L. reuteri and its impact on male reproductive health, the bigger picture is very clear. A diverse and balanced gut microbiome is vital for well-being. And that brings us back to the importance of what we eat.
Right. Our diet has a huge impact on the makeup of our gut microbiome.
Right.
We talked about kefir earlier, but are there other foods that can help us cultivate a thriving community of good bacteria?
Definitely. Fermented foods are a great way to do that. In addition to kefir, you can try things like yogurt with live and active cultures, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha. These foods introduce beneficial bacteria and yeasts into the gut, and that helps boost microbial diversity. Just be sure to choose the unsweetened versions to avoid too much sugar.
So we want to diversify our fermented food intake. What about other dietary recommendations for gut health? Are there foods we should be limiting or avoiding to keep those bad bacteria in check?
Absolutely. A diet rich in fiber is key for feeding those beneficial bacteria. Fiber acts as a prebiotic, basically providing food for those good microbes. So load up on fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. On the flip side, highly processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats can really disrupt the balance of the gut microbiome, and that can lead to an overgrowth of those harmful bacteria.
So a balanced, wholesome diet, lots of whole foods, and limited processed ingredients, that seems to be the key for supporting gut health. But what about other lifestyle factors? Do those influence our gut microbiome as well?
You bet. Stress management, quality sleep, and regular physical activity all play a role in gut health. Chronic stress can wreak havoc on your gut microbiome, leading to imbalances and inflammation. Getting enough sleep is crucial for the gut to repair and recover properly. And regular exercise has actually been shown to promote a more diverse microbiome.
So it all comes back to the mind-body connection. A healthy gut microbiome requires a holistic approach. It's not just about what we eat, it's about how we live our lives.
You got it. It's about creating an environment where those beneficial bacteria can thrive and where the whole system stays in balance.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the potential link between L. reuteri and male reproductive health to the broader implications of gut health. And we even touched on some ways to improve it through diet and lifestyle. As we start wrapping up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
First, remember that the research on L. reuteri and its effects on, things like testicle size, sperm count, and testosterone, it's definitely interesting, but we need to be cautious about making any definitive claims. Human studies are still in their early stages, individual responses can be all over the map, and talking to a doctor before you make any big changes to your diet or start taking any new supplements it's always a good idea.
That's some solid advice. What other final thoughts do you have for our listeners today?
I just emphasize that while we've been talking about a specific type of bacteria and its potential benefits, the main message here is about the overall importance of gut health. Having a diverse and balanced gut microbiome is crucial for overall well-being. And we can work towards that through our diet, lifestyle choices, stress management, all those things. It's a fascinating area of research. We're learning more all the time.
It really is mind-boggling when you think about The sheer number of bacteria we're carrying around, I mean, they actually outnumber our own human selves. And they form this incredible complex ecosystem that's, so essential for our health.
Yeah, and the more we learn about how our gut microbiome interacts with all these different systems in the body, it really underscores how interconnected everything is. Like, did you know there's growing evidence that the gut microbiome actually communicates with the brain?
Oh, I've heard a little about that, the gut-brain axis, right?
Exactly. It's this two-way communication pathway between the gut and the brain, and it seems to play a role in mood, thinking, even behavior. It's pretty remarkable. These tiny organisms in our gut could be having a big impact on our mental and emotional well-being.
It really highlights the need to think about health holistically. Not just treating symptoms, but understanding how all these seemingly separate systems are connected. We've talked about diet and lifestyle changes, but what about things like probiotics and prebiotics? What role do they play in restoring balance to the gut microbiome?
So probiotics, like we talked about with kefir, those actually introduce live beneficial bacteria into the gut. Prebiotics, on the other hand, they're like food for these good bacteria. They help them grow and thrive. So ideally, you want to incorporate both probiotics and prebiotics into your diet to really create a flourishing environment for your gut microbiome.
So it's not just about adding the good guys. We need to make sure they've got what they need to really take hold. This makes me think about personalized nutrition, where dietary recommendations are tailored to an individual specific gut microbiome. Is that the future of gut health?
I think personalized nutrition has incredible potential. Imagine getting dietary advice based on the exact makeup of your own gut microbiome. It could help identify imbalances and then target specific interventions to correct those. That level of precision could revolutionize how we approach gut health and disease prevention.
It's a really exciting concept, moving away from these, one-size-fits-all recommendations and towards something that's truly tailored to the individual.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what are some final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say arm yourself with knowledge. Do your research, be critical of what you see, and don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. This is a rapidly evolving field, and while it's fascinating, it's important to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism and willingness to learn. Absolutely. A healthy gut microbiome is a journey, not a destination. Right? It takes effort and informed choices. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the gut microbiome. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to dive into the fascinating world of the gut.
And to our listeners, until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of those trillions of tiny allies living inside you.